Hello, dear friends. Here we are on Monday afternoon, and I warmly welcome you to Spiritism 101. We're following the book called Spiritism 101. It is written by Louis Hu, and for those of you who enjoy following our gatherings, I invite you to get the book. It was published by the United States Spiritist Federation and can be ordered, I believe, both on Amazon as well as through the Federation, and there might be some other sources too. Today we will be talking about mediums, which follows last week's gatherings on mediumship. So mediums is something that is very an integral part of Spiritism. So let's see that we understand what mediumship involves, who is the best medium, and what we can do to avoid some pitfalls. Mediums is everyone, actually. That is the bottom line. We are all mediums. However, there are distinctions. Some, however, only lightly feel the influence of spirits, but others can see them, hear them, and write what they dictate. Those who serve as a bridge between the spirits and people, more ostensibly, are considered to be mediums. So we're here primarily referring to mediums who are more ostensible mediums, the ones who can actually speak or write, express the spirits that attach to them. If spirits can communicate, that means they always have done that. This finding can be proven throughout history. There have always been people who had the power to see the invisible world and to receive messages. In all cultures and religions, they were called many names. Some called them oracles, others prophets, again others psychics. The communicability with the spirits did not begin with Spiritism. The main distinction is that in the past, the mediumistic phenomena was not freely disclosed within the populations. In contrast to what occurs at the present time, only the initiates back then studied it in private meetings. So mediumship was not always available to everyone. And it was actually not always supported. And we will read that in a moment. We'll hear about it in a moment, because Moses had his own opinion about mediumship. But we know there are many, many famous mediums in our past, not least Jesus as being one of them. Mediumship is not restricted to Spiritism. There are mediums in all religions, even among non-believers and atheists. So we find mediums everywhere. In the Medium's book by Alan Kardec, item 159, we read, "Everyone who is in any degree influenced by spirits is a medium." And that is what we based our first sentence on, that actually we're all mediums. Because if we're conscious of it or not, we're all to a certain degree influenced by spirits. I'm seeing some friends joining, and I will say to you hello later at the end. But thank you for joining, all of you. The mediumistic faculty, although inherent in the human species, is far from existing in all people to the same degree. Each medium has generally a special aptitude for some special order of phenomena, thus resulting in as great a variety of mediums as of phenomena. What are the levels of spirit communication? The first one is the subliminal. It exists or functions without an apparent manifestation. The ostensible is evident to the medium, who can either be conscious, semi-conscious, or unconscious during the manifestation. So we have two categories. The subliminal mediums, those are the ones who are not necessarily conscious of the influence that they are receiving from the spirit world. But then we have the ostensible mediums that are actually either conscious, semi-conscious, or unconscious, and they're usually expressing the spirits that attach to them in one form or another. And last week we went over all the different manifestations. And if you're interested, the Medium's book has several chapters dedicated to that. And I warmly recommend to look at that. When we look at the mechanisms of mediumship, we see that the spirit who wishes to communicate links its own perispirit with that of the medium so as to influence the medium to reproduce its thought by speaking or writing. So the connection happens from perispirit of us incarnates to the perispirits of the discarnates, and actually vice versa. But what we may not forget is that there is such a thing in our brains that is called the pineal gland. And the pineal gland plays quite a big role in the mechanism of communication. The medium receives the spirit's message through the pineal gland, which is located in the center of the brain at eye level. It is often also called the third eye. The communicant spirit sends the thought to the medium. There is a lot written about the pineal gland and can be looked up online, and not all of the information is from Spiritism, but it's very interesting to read of how we can strengthen our pineal gland. And I've read over and over again, one of the things that is apparently quite destructive to the pineal gland is fluoride. So all the toothpastes that we may use in an attempt to preserve our teeth that contain fluoride might have a bad impact on our pineal gland. And the same, of course, applies to the water source. I know that some tap waters in certain areas of this country, they add fluoride. So it's something maybe to keep in mind and further look into. So what is the pineal gland actually? The spirit André Louis, through the automatic writing of Chico Xavier in the book Missionaries of Light, considers the pineal gland as the gland of spiritual life. This gland is a kind of antenna that picks up the messages from the spirits. As a matter of fact, the André Louis series has a lot of information on the pineal gland. André Louis wrote in many of his books about the pineal gland, explaining its function and its consistency more in depth than what we will be covering here. But those books are a tremendous resource for that. Let us see. When we go to the Medium's book now, and we see on page 16, right at the beginning, in the introduction, a beautiful little part that helps us understand what mediumship and what it means to be a medium. Let us look at that. It is in the introduction called by Anna Blackwell's, it's the preface actually, to the Medium's book, page 16, if you like to look at it. And it goes as follows. The high moral tone of the Medium's book, as that of all Kardec's writings, is in unison with the assertion so often repeated by the spirits, whose communications he has coordinated with such exceptional clearness. I'm sorry, I think we had some interruption, at least on my end. I hope it didn't impact your transmission. So we talked about the high moral tone of the Medium's book, whose communications Allan Kardec has coordinated with such exceptional clearness and reach of thought, that the aim of the open interchange which is now being established between spirits and humans is not the mere gratification of curiosity, not the mere enlargement of the sphere of interesting inquiry, not even the mere giving of the certainty of our continued existence beyond the grave. The sole aim of this interchange is, instead, the moral improvement, I say that again, the moral improvement of the human race, which it will accomplish through the new light it will throw on the nature and purpose of human life. By showing us that our present is always the result of our past and the arbiter of our future, and that the acquisition of wisdom and benevolence is the sole condition of happiness. This interchange will furnish us with the most powerful incentive to the pursuit of knowledge and the practice of kindness, and it will thus effect the gradual amelioration of humankind that is destined to transform the earth from a world of punishment and discipline, as it now is, into a portal to the happier realms of existence, to which we can only attain as the result of our intellectual and moral improvement. What are we learning here in this section alone? We're understanding that through the communication with the spirits, we have an opportunity to morally develop ourselves. And when we grow morally, when we become kinder, more gentle, more charitable, more forgiving, the whole world will shift. Because right now, planet Earth is a world of atonement, punishment, and pain, as we just learned. However, planet Earth too will shift into a world, a happier world, where love will increasingly reign. Now let us imagine this shift can only happen if we, one by one, shift morally, improve our moral values, become kinder and more charitable, more like Jesus. And that is why we're seeing Jesus as our guide and model. And it is through mediums, the mediums and mediumship, that we have a chance to grow and become morally more responsible. Let us go to Missionaries of the Light by André Louise again. It was psychographed by Chico Xavier. And here we're reading, mediumship is not a gift for the privileged. It is a quality common to all people and requires sincere goodwill in the realm of betterment. Here he says it too. What does he mean by realm of betterment? He means our moral improvement. The quality of the transmission, which we can read further on in the Medium's book. In order for a medium to exercise his or her faculty with a noble interest, that is, enjoying communication, support or aid of good spirits, it is essential that the medium recognizes the great responsibility involved in the task entrusted to him or her. So to be an ostensible medium carries with it a great responsibility. This task, being a medium, begins with the vigilance of his or her moral development in day-to-day thoughts and actions. The medium should continuously work towards his or her personal reform and spiritual growth. A devoted study of both the gospel as well as spirits' works pertaining to mediumship is essential. We know that the Gospel According to Spiritism by Allan Kardec is a tremendous source to help us understand how we can turn ourselves to become better people, how to turn ourselves to the good, to do the good, to be the good, to express the good, to think the good, to mold the good. And of course the Medium's book by Allan Kardec as well, which not only explains what it means to be a medium, not only explains everything about mediumship, but also the pitfalls and all the different expressions of mediumship. So the Medium's book is a tremendous source for us to educate ourselves about mediumship further. At this point, I would like to turn to Moses, because Moses did not permit mediumship. And let us see why he was not in support of mediums and mediumship. Moses forbade the Jewish people to communicate with the spirits because they were misusing mediumship. At that time, the Jews were freed from slavery in Egypt, and for having lived many centuries in the country, they acquired various habits, such as the use of mediumship for personal gains. They used mediumship for personal gains. Spiritism has demonstrated that the spiritual purpose of mediumship is to comfort and to teach. So mediumship, or being a medium, becoming a medium, supporting our mediumship, is not to be done for selfish purposes. And that is exactly what the Jewish people at the time, at Moses' time, seemed to have done. And that is why Moses did not support for them to be mediums, to use mediumship. However, when we look at Spiritism, it is a very different form of mediumship. Spiritists do not sacrifice children or offer libations to honor the gods, which was a practice that was done in the very, very past. Spiritists do not inquire of heavenly bodies, the dead, or sorcerers in order to divine the future that God has wisely hidden from humankind. That is not happening. Spiritists reject any form of making a business of the faculty of communicating with spirits, which some possess. So there is no monetary gain from a gift that we have received from God. When Jesus spoke of mediumship, he said to the disciples, "Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely you give." We read that in Matthew, verse 10, item 8. Jesus implied that mediumship should be free, because no one should charge for what one have received for free. Spiritists are not motivated by curiosity or greed, but by a sentiment of piety and a desire to learn, to improve themselves, or to comfort suffering souls. So what we're understanding here is that mediumship is to be used for good purpose, for a charitable purpose, to help, to heal, to support, to comfort. Let me look. I'm getting some messages here that I do want to pay attention now because there have been so many. So, hello, Hippolito. I know I wanted to say it at the end, but there's been too many. So, Adilson, thank you for attending. Lovely. I have bifocals. That's why I have to raise my head this much. Hello, everyone. Hippolito is saying. He also says hello to Adilson. Julija is here. Welcome, welcome. And then there's Gabriel Ignacio. He says, "I attended a course here at FEESP, and I always feel shy of making a question. Where and how can I help out at the meeting if I'm not a medium of ostensive effect?" Gabrielle, this is a wonderful question. What do you mean by FEESP? And I know from the two Spiritist centers that I am affiliated with, there is so many different ways of supporting a center, of supporting the people who come, of supporting the spirits who attend. There is never a shortage of ways to be of help, whether you're a medium or not. I also know from disobsession or rescue work that there is always a need for spirit counselors, and most of the spirit counselors that I know are not necessarily ostensible mediums. And I'm sure some other people have some good ideas. Oh, it's the Federation Espírita de Sao Paulo. Thank you. Yeah, I hope you heard me. There's many different ways, and I would just ask, how can I be of support as well? I hope I was able to help you a little bit. So let us go back to mediums. So we learned we need to watch our moral development, and we need to use mediumship for the good. The mediumistic practice, let's see, don't want to overlook anything. The mediumistic practice, according to the interpretation of Spiritism, has as its objective to receive advice from the enlightened spirits. So it's important, number one, to receive advice from the enlightened spirits. Number two, to help those people imprisoned in the meshes of vices and passions. And we do that often through the rescue work at Spiritist centers. Thirdly, to develop and increase knowledge and understanding of who we are, what is our origin, and where are we going? What is our destination? So we're also receiving information about the bigger picture. And the Spirits book, which was the first book by Allan Kardec, codified by Allan Kardec, consists of 1,019 questions to this effect. It tells us, in a bottom line, where we're coming from, why we're here, and where we're going, what our destination is. And then in our personal, in our group connection with spirits, we can further receive information, support on that. Now, fourthly, to maintain friendly and loving, so the purpose of mediumship is to maintain friendly and loving relationships with the departed loved ones. So the first one is to receive advice, the second one is to help, the third one is to develop and increase knowledge, and the last one is to connect ourselves with our loved ones on the other side. God has given mediumship to the individual for a serious and useful purpose. First, self-illumination. Secondly, humankind's progress. Thirdly, developing virtues. Fourthly, helping others in both planes. And that we primarily do through the rescue work. So it is all about doing the good for ourselves, by improving ourselves morally, by educating ourselves of how we can do that best. Yes, we do have the gospel. We have a lot of beautiful Spiritist works which help us to do that. But we can also receive further information by connecting to benevolent spirits through mediumships, through the mediums. So that is the purpose of self-illumination. And the second one is humankind's progress. So if we illuminate ourselves further, if we become more morally developed, we help humankind on the whole. And we may even receive messages for that purpose. It helps us to develop our virtues, and it helps us to help others in the other realms through rescue work. One of the dangers of mediumship is obsession. And while we're not going deeper into obsession here, we would like to recommend to look at chapter 23 in the Medium's book, which is dedicated to obsession. Now, what is obsession in a nutshell? It is the attachment of negative, ailing, unhappy spirits to ourselves, sometimes to groups, sometimes to whole countries. And why would they want to attach themselves to us? Well, we may not have been so kind to them in the past, and it also depends on the life we're living, because whatever energy we're emitting, that is the energy that comes back to us. It's the law of attraction. So if we drink and smoke and do all kinds of things like of that nature, we are most likely attracting spirits of a similar nature. However, if we dedicate our lives to do the good and to transform ourselves to become better people, we most likely attract primarily good spirits who want to help us in that endeavor. Now, when we go to Louis Hu, we're asking the following question. Who is a good medium then? And the answer we're getting is, a good medium is not the one who communicates easily with the spirits, but one that is pleasing to the good spirits. So that is a very important distinction. So a good medium is not the one who communicates easily, but one who is pleasing to the good spirits. The medium is always attuned to them and only receives messages from those. So how can we attune ourselves to the good spirits best? By our own inner transformation, education, and practicing the good. Thinking the good, speaking the good, doing the good. Becoming more charitable, which we know the definition of charity by benevolent spirits is to be benevolent, indulgent, and forgiving. In the Mediumship book by Alan Kardec, item 197, we read, "Good mediums are those who understand that the true medium has a mission to fulfill, and that one must be ready, when necessary, to sacrifice one's tastes, habits, pleasure, time, and even one's worldly interests to the good of others." And that summarizes the whole entire chapter on mediumship and mediums. What do we need to do? We need to fulfill a mission. We need to take it seriously to be a medium. And we need to sacrifice our tastes, habits, pleasure, time, and worldly interests. So the more we educate ourselves on how to become a better person, and the more we practice it every single day, day in, day out, the more pleasing we will be to the good spirits, the less easily we will suffer from obsession, and the more we will be helpful to those who are in need, which is what we want to do the good. So with this, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for attending. Many blessings to all. I'm seeing one more message here that I don't want to overlook. Gabriel says, "That was very good explanation. Thank you. I really appreciated it." Thanks a million for your time and many blessings. Gabriel, thank you so much, and everyone else for listening. And I hope you got a little bit clearer on what the core importance for us mediums, for anyone who actually is alive, but for mediums in particular, what is the most important thing? Our moral transformation. And out of that will come improvement, not only for our own lives, but for the whole planet, for the whole of humanity. Thank you all. Thank you, Kardec Radio. Many blessings. And we will meet at the same time next week, Monday at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And next week, we will be looking deeper at psychography. Blessings. Bye.